Alright guys, so I just got out of court and I ended up having like a mini panic attack in the courtroom because I just kept having flashbacks of the last time I was in court, and you know, the judge that I had pretty much scolded me and made me feel like I was crap. And I think this is one of the hardest parts. I don't know how to get out of here. I just need to turn around. I feel like anytime I tell my story, it's like no one believes me. So I've spoken so many times about, okay, I guess I just have to reverse out of here. I feel like I never actually have been able to defend myself in the courtroom, and it's always innocent until proven guilty. But I feel like honestly the court has always treated me like guilty, and so basically they told me I just have to pay $200 more and then I'm done with my probation. So that's the good part, but I don't know why. Like, I kind of didn't understand. I was so confused. They were just shoved a paper in my face, told me to sign, and the judge threatened. He's like, if you don't do this, I'm putting you in jail. And I was so confused over why he was even saying that to me. Like, I didn't even say anything. She's like, you basically have done nothing. He was like, and I better not ever see you in my courtroom or I'm gonna put you in jail. And I was like, what's going on? And what I'm just realizing is even though I don't truly feel guilty for a DUI or reckless driving, that's how I'm perceived to everyone in that courtroom, as a drunk driver, reckless driver, someone who's just doesn't follow the law. I'm like, I don't ever want to have to be in court again. I'm so tired of going to court for anything. And you know, I make sure not to speed and follow the speed limit and everything wherever I go, because I'm like, I don't ever want to have to end up in court again. So just being back in there kind of was like flashbacks. But I also think too, I'm being judged on my arrest, and that's what it honestly felt like. As soon as I got the DUI, even just being arrested, I wasn't, before ever actually being found guilty, I was met with so much judgment and consequences and punishments. I think it's really hard for me because I know I had no intention of drinking and driving. I didn't feel like I was risking anything driving. And I've told this story before, even though it's now private, but And I feel like the one thing that I will say is the reason I probably shouldn't have drove, even if I had doubt, or even if I didn't feel like I was drunk, I did have some doubt if I was good to drive. And because I had any type of doubt, that means I guess I was guilty. And I shouldn't have put myself, I guess, in that position. However, I feel like as far as the court of law goes, I never was able to defend myself or even share my story in the courtroom. I went to court, or it was just so much. It's honestly been too much for me. Just the past couple of months of this, having this hanging over my head. I basically have, I had all of these consequences. Even as soon as I got arrested, my car got towed. I had to pay $250 to get my car towed. I had to take all these Ubers to and from the courtroom. I wasted so much time, money trying to get my car. It's truly been like such a, I guess, experience, harsh experience, everything. And I feel like what makes it hard for me is, I wish I had done things a lot differently. I pretty much just wish I never had gone out that night. Now I stand on the fact that me having 2 drinks, I didn't feel tipsy or drunk at any point that night. And I was I wasn't even planning on going out that night either. So my biggest learning lesson, I guess, from everything is never ignore the Holy Spirit when it tells you to stay home or not go somewhere, because now I'm facing all of these consequences because I made the decision to go out that night. And then the crazy thing is, like, I feel like I've gone out, had 1 or 2 drinks and never felt drunk at all. So I didn't think, me having 2 drinks that night was me risking anything or me risking driving drunk, because, the previous times I'd gone out, I'd felt fine. I didn't feel like anything. And that's why I said before, it's just like, if every person who's gone out and had a couple of drinks while at dinner was guilty of a DUI, I feel like how many people? But there's just a lot of things, I guess, that I have to take into consideration, as far as, being in the right place at the wrong time, ignoring my gut feeling that told me I should just stay home, I ordered drinks I never had before that my friend had recommended to me. I didn't know how much alcohol was in those drinks. But anyways, the other frustrating thing for me is knowing that the officer that did arrest me lied on the police report. He put untrue information on there, and that frustrates me so much. And when I brought that up to the public defender in the courtroom, he kind of just ignored it and told me, oh, well, I know the officer really well, and he's really good at his job. And that was the response I got. And hear me out, y'all. My story is not changing on what happened because I wasn't drunk. I remember most of the details. I know I had to pee that night, and I probably shouldn't have told the officer that, because drunk people also have to pee a lot. Even though I have, medically documented an overactive bladder, I pee a lot more frequently than the average person. I don't know why. Even on just like a regular basis. But that probably was also used against me. The officer claimed my breath smelled strongly of alcohol, which I don't believe either, because I have been chewing gum and I've been drinking water for the past 2 hours. So I'd had the drinks that I had that night, I'd had at about 12:30 p.m. And by the time I got pulled over at 2:30 a.m. So after 12:30 p.m. that night, I had only been drinking water. So you're telling me 2 hours after drinking alcohol and chewing on gum, my breath smelled strongly of alcohol? Yeah, I don't believe that. Secondly, the fact that I told him when he pulled me over that I'd had a Long Island iced tea. I've never ordered a Long Island iced tea in my life. And I know for a fact there is a recording of after he arrested me asking me, can I ask you what drink you had? So if you can tell me that you put on a police report, I told you when you pulled me over that I had a Long Island iced tea, when there should be somewhere video evidence of after you pulled me over asking me what I had to drink, means I could not have told you I had a Long Island iced tea prior to you arresting me, which is what he alluded to on the police report. I also feel like the refusal to take the breathalyzer is why I got penalized way harsher, and it wasn't because I was trying to be difficult. The officer made it seem like I did not have to take the breathalyzer. I didn't know it was a requirement, and that's the other regret I have. I'm like, I should have just taken the breathalyzer. And I also feel like having taken the breathalyzer would have also let me know, maybe I don't know my own tolerance. Maybe I was above the legal limit, and that would have made accepting all of the consequences I'm facing a lot easier. If I knew I really deserved a DUI because I was over the blood alcohol limit, I could accept consequences for that because I really should not have been driving at that point. But I don't know that for sure. And because he tried to trick me. And here's my thing. When I got pulled over, I felt like it was so obvious I wasn't drunk. I didn't understand why he was even asking me to take a breathalyzer. And it's not like he explained to me like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a breathalyzer. He shoves this nasty looking tube in my face and goes, blow on this. And I'm looking at it and I was like, I start to, and then I think to myself like, oh, this is a breathalyzer. And I'm like, oh, do I have to do this? And he tells me no. So maybe I shouldn't have asked if I have to take the breathalyzer. Maybe that's my fault for asking that question. But once he told me no, I'm thinking, okay, I don't have to take the breathalyzer. Not aware that it came with. And then I guess he was trying to explain. Now the other part of it is I don't remember refusing the blood alcohol, but basically it's just like, if you tell me something's optional, I'm always gonna say no. I'm never gonna opt in to do anything. So once I was under the impression that this was an optional thing, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. If I don't have to do something, I'm not gonna do it. But anyways, I just basically I am now treated like a criminal, a worse type of criminal. And maybe it's like, yeah, well, according to the law, I'm a criminal, I guess. So I guess I could just accept it because that's the fact of the matter. But I just feel like I'm treated according to what's on my paper. The fact that I was arrested for a DUI. That's the reason I even lost my ability to do Uber and Instacart. I wasn't found guilty of driving under the influence, but I was arrested for it. So just being arrested for it means I'm guilty, I guess. And took away don't have that option anymore. So there's been so many like unforeseen consequences, I guess. It's just frustrating for me. I just want it to be over with. And at this point, it's like there's really nothing else I can do. Basically, after the initial court hearing, and I didn't understand everything, but me pleading guilty to reckless driving basically was like, oh, I'm admitting guilt to that. No, I don't believe I was actually reckless driving, but they're like, well, it's better than a DUI and you can get your license back. I felt forced to have to accept the guilty plea because I didn't have my license, I didn't have any money, I couldn't afford a lawyer. And I just had to take whatever I guess was the best option available to me, which the best option available to me was, you know, plead guilty to reckless driving, get your license back so you don't have to risk driving on a suspended license or pay, you know, hundreds of dollars a week in Ubers you can't afford until you can go to trial in another 3 months. I was already struggling at my job. So it was really like, I was already torn between a rock and a hard place because I went to court when I was still at my job. I was making not even probably $300 a week. Struggling very, very badly to keep up, and I'm like, I can't afford this. Now, I probably could have walked to work if I stayed at that job, because I did work somewhere that was close to where I live, but I would have never had enough money to do anything because I was already barely making it, or I wasn't really able to pay anything with the job I had. So I don't know, I guess everything happens for a reason. Obviously this was a very hard lesson with a lot of consequences that I had to learn, and that's why I don't risk going out and drinking at all anymore. Like, I won't, if I go out and I'm not gonna drink if I know I have to drive. And that's kind of just, I guess, the best solution. I also just don't even go out anymore. When I tell y'all I have not been out since, well, I've already talked about this. I had attempted to go out like 3 months after, actually no, more than that. About 4 months after my arrest, I had tried to go out and meet some friends, and I wasn't planning on drinking because now if I go out, I'm like, I'm not drinking. I refuse to drink if I go out. And that's when I witnessed the crime scene. So that was like number 2 reason I don't need to be. It was like just the second time. And I made a whole video explaining this, why I feel like I don't need to be going out to nightclubs and stuff like that as a Christian. But it's just frustrating having to, I guess, learn that lesson the very hard way. And even prior to me getting this DUI, y'all, I hadn't been going out a lot. Like, that was my 4th time ever going out. I'd gone out, I've lived in this area for almost, on and off for almost 7 years. Had never gone out until like the beginning of last year. And the 4th time I'd ever gone out, I got arrested for a DUI. It's not like I was constantly out drinking, getting drunk, going out with friends. Like, the picture I guess people have for, you know, people who have DUIs is, oh, they're party girls and they go out and get drunk all the time. Like, that wasn't me. I guess that makes it even more frustrating. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I learned my lesson, I guess. I will not put myself in that type of position ever again. It's just really hard, and I feel like constantly being scolded by people is so frustrating, and being judged because of the arrest. And you know, I got denied a car insurance because I had that reckless. It's like, even though I'm grateful the charge was reduced to reckless driving, the reckless driving is still not good to have on my record. I got denied car insurance coverage by a company for having that on my record. It makes me feel like a crappy person. Or it just makes me feel like I'm seen as a crappy person by credit card companies, by car insurance companies, by the law, by police officers, by, you know, all the people who were sharing my mugshot, by anyone who can, I guess, judge me based off of my past. And it's hard because it's like, I know, like, people make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. No one's perfect. I made the mistake of going out that night. And if I had some doubt about driving, I should have just not gotten in my car, or I shouldn't have driven. I should have waited or gotten a ride. But at the time, I didn't think it was, you know, I was like, well, I'd only had 2 drinks. I've been drinking water. I don't feel buzzed. I don't feel drunk. I truly didn't believe I was incapable of driving. But obviously, my own actions led me to the position I'm in now, and I can't blame everyone else, even though it sucks how it happened, and it sucks how I'm facing all of these consequences, unexpected and expected, I guess. All I can do is just keep moving forward. But I really did start having a panic attack in that courtroom, because I just remembered how, like, small and insignificant that judge, the first time I was in there, made me feel. And then it's like the second time I go in there, that judge made me feel so insignificant and small, and threatening to throw me in jail. Because I am being judged. Like, that's the truth about it. Is like, being judged by a court of law doesn't make you feel good about yourself. Like, being judged by other people doesn't feel good either, but that's the whole reason. Like, people go to court to get judged, and you're judged according to the law. So under I guess when it really just comes down to it, no one was defending me. I didn't have any defense. When I went the first time, I didn't have a lawyer. The public defender basically said, you know, it doesn't matter, that the information on the police report was wrong. I don't know. I don't feel like, I guess part of me feels like I didn't really get justice in a way, because I feel like I felt like I was assumed guilty from the jump. I don't feel like I was ever assumed innocent. And like I said, a big part of me also, I feel like it would have been a lot easier accepting consequences if I knew, you know, if I had taken the breathalyzer and it showed I was over the limit. I feel like I it would have been easier for me to accept responsibility for that, because then I could have been like, oh, like, you really don't know, you really don't have the ability to judge your own, I guess. I mean, that's just the whole thing. Like, drinking, how do you know you're drunk or not? It's like, how do you actually gauge if you're okay? It's like, anytime you're out drinking, you really don't have the assurance. And I feel like every step of the judicial process for me was just about, the court making money off of me. So my license automatically got suspended prior to me even going to court. This is one of the most annoying parts, because it was funny to me because I was there basically over probation, violating my probation because I hadn't been able to make a payment for various reasons. It was always like, I would get to my probation officer, I'm like, I don't have any money. Like, it was towards the end of my pay period. I would not be getting paid probably until like the next day. And so I was always like literally scraping. Like, if you live paycheck to paycheck, you're like, before you get paid, you are as broke as ever. Like, I would never have any money when I was going to my meetings with my probation officer. So, it wasn't that I didn't want to be able to pay it. It's just like, I don't have the money to pay it today. And they would always ask me, can you make a payment today? I'd have to be like, no, I can't. Like, I don't have anything left. I typically would have a negative balance going to my meetings. So, I don't know. And then when I would get paid, it's just like I said, I've honestly been having a lot of it's like, as soon as I get paid, I make sure like my necessities are paid, like car insurance, phone bill, rent, whatever things I need to like actually survive every day. And then I always set aside, I want to have at least $100 per week set aside for food and gas and other, miscellaneous things. And I don't even always have that. So it's like, I typically have less than $200 after I pay my bills. And then basically my choice was, either I could have money in my savings for, to get my own place, or pay the fine. But I really wouldn't have been paying the fine either. I would have been under it, because I still didn't have the amount I needed to pay the fine and still have. So I don't know. It's been very challenging for me. I think in a lot of ways, I feel like I haven't been prioritizing maybe the right things, but at the same time, I also feel like there's not been the expectation, I guess, I set for myself. I started my new job thinking I could easily pay, my probation fee every month with no problem. And that basically just hasn't been the case. I've had a lot of unexpected fees, with car repairs and everything else, unexpected bills, miscellaneous things that come up. And it's just like, I thought I was going to be able to manage it, and I couldn't. And then also with, my dad telling me I had to move out, it's like, do I pay a fine? put money towards paying this fine, or do I put money towards having a place to live? And I chose having a place to live. But pretty much, I was looked down on by that judge in the courtroom. I guess because it's always, I'm going to be assumed guilty both of the DUIs. Like, if you weren't guilty, why did you plead guilty to the lower count of reckless driving? It's just like, I'm always going to be assumed guilty because I took the plea deal that was given to me, even though I didn't want to take it. I think that's what is frustrating for me, because I would have liked to have been able to plead not guilty and plead my case or defend myself a little bit. But I never had the opportunity to do that, or got the opportunity to do that, because the circumstances surrounding it, I didn't have money I could waste. I didn't have money to afford a lawyer. I didn't have money I could waste. I couldn't afford to not have my license. Just like, it's torn between a rock and a hard place. So now the penalties is that I guess what I'm dealing with. But thankfully, I should be able to just pay this next $200. Now, I'm gonna say this and be as just transparent. I don't have any money to my name right now. Like, right now, at this very moment, nada. But I do want to be able to just be done with my probation. And then the other confusing thing is, like, she basically told me, oh, we'll just show up to your, she didn't give me a specific date. She was like, just show up to your probation in March. And I was like, well, is there a specific date? She's like, well, can you come the first or second week? I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can try to come the second week. And basically, she told me I just have to pay $200 and then I'm done. But we'll see. So yeah, that's been my experience. I also got a ticket for a school zone speeding violation, which was a $75 fine. I was gonna try to fight that one in court, but I'm like, I don't have the energy, and I would have to take off of work to fight $75. It's like, I would make more than $75 in one day. Is it $75 I want to pay? No, but I'm probably gonna end up just having to pay that one too. I don't remember driving through the school zone. I wouldn't knowingly speed in the school zone, but like I said, I think, like, mistakes happen. Not everyone is intentionally, breaking laws or, like, willingly doing things that they think. But the truth is, it's like a lot of mistakes and sometimes choices we make come with consequences we're not prepared to face either. Like, I still can think about, my dad witnessed a really bad motorcycle accident where basically a teenager was driving. He decided to risk making a left turn in front of a motorcyclist. He hit that motorcyclist head on. That motorcyclist passed away. He died because of that. So because this teen made a decision thinking he had enough time to make a left turn when it was not his right of way, he was in the wrong. Did he intentionally kill that man? No, but he made a really poor decision that led to someone dying. So it's just like, even if you are not intentionally making a decision to do wrong, or you're just, you're not trying to cause harm or do anything wrong, there are choices that we can make that impact other people, and have consequences far beyond. So that's like a manslaughter charge now, because he couldn't wait till it was completely clear. He couldn't thought he had enough time to turn in front of this motorcyclist. He didn't gauge the space well enough. A man lost his life, but also you have a teenager who's now on trial for manslaughter because he made a bad decision, or made a poor judgment, I guess. And I feel like poor judgments lead to bad decisions. I think that's how the best way you can make of it. Like, if you don't judge a situation accurately, that could lead you to making a bad decision. And I would say that's kind of my case as well. I didn't think I was drunk, so I made the decision to drive, and that led to me getting arrested for a DUI. The poor judgment of either the poor judgment assessment of my, sobriety. I guess because I never thought I was drunk to begin with. But again, I don't have a breathalyzer to prove me right or wrong, which is frustrating, I guess, for me. But in a court of law, they just assume that just means you're assumed guilty, I guess, if you're refusing. And it wasn't like I refused because I was trying to be difficult or trying to hide something. It was really just, and I guess I could say this, part of the reason I didn't want to take the breathalyzer is because I didn't want it to show I had been drinking at all. It wasn't even like I was scared of being over the alcohol content. I was like, I don't want it to show I've been drinking at all. Like, I don't know. That, in my opinion, was better, but it was actually worse. So, another poor judgment. Anyways, all in all, I'm in my situation because of choices I made, even if they weren't choices that I knew would lead to the consequences in the situation I'm in now. And all I can do is just face them and live with them. And it's hard some days. I know it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of my life. But I guess just having people treat me a certain way because of it, it's just what I guess sucks. I'm like, are we allowed to treat people, I don't know. I can't control other people at the end of the day, so all I can do is, continue making better decisions and making sure I'm never in that situation again. So I'm back home now. I'm gonna go lay down. I think all of the crying I've been doing has been giving me a headache. Because I'm just like, I just want this situation to be over, guys. Like, that's really all it is. I don't want to be in this situation anymore. It's frustrating. It's draining on me mentally, emotionally. I get that, there has to be some sort of consequences for actions. I guess me losing, well, like I said, I don't think the courts don't really care about your personal losses. They just care about, they have to be able to make money off of you somehow. Courts benefit from people committing crimes. No one committed crimes, they couldn't charge the fines, which keep the courts running, or keep them running some sort of profit. So in a lot of ways, I do feel like it's about money too. The more money you have, the less likely you are to face consequences as well. If you could hire a lawyer to reduce your charges, or who could reduce your sentencing, like, there's also that aspect of it too. But regardless, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I just did not like being in that courtroom again, because it just brought me back to the original court case and how kind of humiliating it was. It was very humiliating. But I guess there's nothing I can do about that either. So yeah,